Hello, I'm Blaze, and welcome back to Warframe, where I'll be giving you my opinions on the Ocucor. This is the second sentient Corpus hybrid weapon released with Fortuna, and is something of an odd duck. Acquiring an Ocucor for yourself will involve going to your clan dojo's energy lab. The research is pretty cheap, although the build requirements will take some farming. 25,000 credits, 10 field drawn, 40 thermal sludge, 55 Venerdo alloy, and 20 Sagan modules. I usually don't specifically bring up where to find resources, but I will say that Sagan modules come from Carmelotes, an Orb Valis aquatic drone that rarely appears in caves and looks like a giant Orokin lobster shrimp thing. Its stats are reasonable, though nothing particularly impressive on the surface, aside from most of its damage coming in the form of radiation, which makes for potent crowd control combined with its elevated status chance. Unfortunately, its base damage is quite low. Its critical stats are a bit below average. If you have access to primed target cracker and primed pistol gambit, then they are sufficient to make for decent critical hits. But if you only have access to the standard target cracker, then you're better off building purely for status. Something else to note is its reserve ammo pool being 200, which is also slightly below the standard reserve ammo pool for pistols. Combined with a high fire rate, this does mean that the Ocucor can end up running dry very quickly, especially at high levels, if you don't use either an ammo mutation mod or carrier's ammo box. It comes with no default polarities, but I suppose that isn't too bad considering it doesn't cost a forma to build like a lot of clan tech weapons do, but it is still something that's worth mentioning. Looking at the stats doesn't really do the Ocucor justice though, because it has its own special ability. Every kill with the Ocucor's primary beam will cause it to start projecting an additional beam that does 50% of the damage of its primary beam, up to 4 in total. These new beams curve upwards and home in on enemies in a cone in front of you, which makes for some pretty crazy crowd clearing potential, and means you don't even need to aim after getting some kills. They even get their own critical hits and status procs individually, so you can end up with a lot of status effects being thrown around very quickly. All good things come to an end at some point though, because these beams will disappear once you reload the Ocucor. However, they will still persist until that happens, so you can holster it or go some time between uses and they'll still be there as long as you didn't either run out of ammo in the magazine or reload it manually. This results in the somewhat odd situation where you are somewhat punished for reloading frequently, as of course you are losing out on up to 200% extra damage output if you reload early. So I find that it's just better to let the Ocucor's magazine run out on its own if you want maximum efficiency. The Ocucor also has a slight damage ramp mechanic. When you start shooting the Ocucor, it'll take 0.6 seconds to reach its maximum damage output, and after stopping it'll keep its damage output for 0.8 seconds and then decay back down to minimum over 2 seconds. Honestly, you aren't likely to even notice this is a thing. I certainly didn't until I read the wiki. But it does mean that you'll generally not want to let the Ocucor go cold, so to speak, when near a group of enemies. Though again, considering how quickly it gets to maximum damage, it probably won't matter too much anyway. What matters a lot more is how the Ocucor will suffer at high levels due to how it works. Getting the most out of it will require getting 4 kills in a single magazine with enough ammo left over to make use of the extra beams, which hurts it a lot when enemies become too tough to do that comfortably. This compounds its ammo efficiency problems to result in having a very limited stamina at high levels without quite a bit of help, either from ammo mutation, Warframe abilities that weaken enemies or improve your own weapon damage, or all three. Before then, it does do some pretty nasty work on groups of weaker enemies though. In the interest of attempting to get maximum efficiency from the Ocucor, I ended up doing a fair bit of testing and arrived at a somewhat non-standard build in that I don't use Lethal Torrent. Lethal Torrent's multi-shot and fire rate increase certainly improve the weapon's damage per second, but the high fire rate also results in wasted shots, which is definitely not something I want on a weapon with a limited ammo pool already. I also wanted to increase the magazine capacity to keep the extra tracking beams around for as long as I could comfortably, so I have used Primed Slip Magazine. The corrupted Tainted Clip mod is also a perfectly fine option if you don't have access to Primed Slip Magazine, or you can even use both if you lack the Primed Pistol Crit mods and really want to keep it going. But as always, you can build how you want, and that is certainly an option considering how many things can change how the Ocucor handles thanks to its per magazine mechanics. But Blaze, I hear some people asking in the distance, what about Ruinous Extension? You've used it on other secondary beams like the Atmos. Yes, I have. And I'd love for it to be an option, but for whatever damn reason, the Ruinous Extension mod isn't compatible with the Ocucor even though it is a beam weapon with a limited 20-meter range. This seems like an oversight and it rather infuriates me because the Ocucor can use Lethal Momentum, the pistol projectile velocity mod, even though the Ocucor is a beam weapon. Lethal Momentum does seem to actually have an effect in that I think It causes the Ocucor's damage to ramp up slightly faster. However, it also seems to speed up the rate at which its damage decays upon ceasing fire as well, which makes this mod basically useless for the Ocucor. And even if my eyes deceive me and it doesn't speed up the decay rate, I personally don't think it's worth the slot considering how many other mods the Ocucor is asking for anyway. Like I said, the Ocucor is a bit of a strange weapon, but I actually like it anyway. The additional beam mechanic is fairly unique, even if how the beams themselves act is borrowed from the Klebrick scaffold from the operator amps. It still looks really cool in my opinion, particularly when you have all 4 beams turned on and there's a crazy light show going on in front of you as a result. I'd hesitate to bring it into the last sortie missions, but it will rip through lower level missions very rapidly and I found it to be fairly fun. So if you happen to have a weapon slot to spare or feel like experimenting, then the Ocucor might be worth a look even with its shortcomings. Thank you for watching my opinions on the Ocucor. All comments are appreciated and I hope to see you around next time. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, then feel free to check out some of my other videos. And regardless, as always, take care.